Hey everybody, welcome into this Adobe Illustrator tutorial brought to you as always by tutvid.com. You saw the title. We're talking about some advanced 3D text here in Illustrator. This is like 3D tube intertwining scripty text. I don't even know how to really describe it, but I did a Photoshop tutorial a couple weeks ago on how to do this effect in Photoshop. People really seem to like it. Some people were asking how to do it in Illustrator. Here is how we do it in Illustrator. Now, remember, the best way to support this video, if you feel so inclined, show some love, hit that like button over there. Also, make sure you subscribe to my channel so you never miss another video in the future. And buy my Photoshop course. The link will pop up there. If you're into Photoshop, it's all about how to retouch stuff. And, you know, if you're a vector graphic designer or an Illustrator, you might not be that interested. But it's all about Photoshop stuff, and it helps support the channel. Let's get into this tutorial. I'm really excited about this one. I think you're going to love it. So check this out. This is just one of the effects. Not only are we going to talk about how to create this effect, I'll show you how to create it very quickly. So if that's all you're interested in, you can be in and out of this tutorial and on your way before you know it. But I'm also going to show you how to take fonts and apply this effect to a font by manually basically converting a font to a series of paths. It's a really neat technique, and I think you're really going to like it. And just, doesn't it look so cool? And it's so easy. Wait till you see how to do this. Here's how we kick it off by going File, New, and I'm going to create a document 2560 by 1440 RGB color. Absolutely. Go ahead and create that. And I'm going to double click and name my layer. Well, first of all, I'm going to go Panel Options. I'm going to make these layers about, my layer thumbnail is about 60 pixels so we can see what's going on there. I'm going to name this layer BG. I am going to grab my rectangle tool. I'm going to click once. And I'm going to say 2560 by 1440 just to create a little background here. Get rid of the stroke, and for the fill, I'm going to double click here on my fill to go to the color picker, and I'm going to choose a very dark, very saturated teal or blue color. Yeah, maybe I'll go more in the blues realm. Yeah, go something like that. That looks cool. And grab the Move tool, and we're going to make sure here under this little icon, choose Align to Artboard, and then align it to the horizontal and vertical centers. And then right in here, between the eyeball and the colored bar, click, and you're going to lock that layer. So it just gives a little lock icon so we can't click and move and destroy the layer. Here's how to create that effect really, really quickly. You create a new layer, and we're going to grab the Ellipse tool. So that's right here, Ellipse tool. And down here beneath all of this stuff that's going on up here, I'm going to just drag out an ellipse. About that big is perfect. And now what I'm going to do is open up my gradient panel by double-clicking on my gradient panel to open it up. I'm going to double-click to collapse my color panel. That's a little absurd there. I want to see my layers. Here on my gradient panel, I'm going to click on the gradient swatch, and it's going to apply that gradient to my little circle. I'm going to double-click on the white gradient slider, and from this little flyout menu in the top right corner, I am going to select HSB, Hue, Saturation, Brightness, and I'm going to make this a very light teal color, something like that. Brightness and saturation at 100%, and hue at about 185, 186 looks great. Double click on the black color slider. Again, go HSB on that color thing, and we're going to make this more of a blue. So I'm going to go very bright blue. Maybe a little darker than that. There we go, something like that looks good. And I'm going to set the angle of this linear gradient to -45. So the light color up here, going down to the dark color down here, looks great. Hold down the Alt or Option key and just drag a copy of this circle straight to the right. And you're holding down Alt to duplicate it, and then hold down Shift to make sure it stays in just a perfectly straight line. All right, great. Select both of these circles and go Object, Blend, Make. Now, I get this perfect looking line of gradient goodness. You might not get that. If you don't, go Object, Blend, and choose Blend Options. In all likelihood, you have smooth color selected, and you're getting something like that, right? Well, what you want to do, make sure we have the orientation set to just this Align to Page, and go to Specified Steps, and I like to set it to, you know, as much as I can, and 1,000's about as good as it gets. In fact, I'm going to set this back to the Align to Path orientation because I like the way it looks better. Go ahead and hit OK. We've got our great blend. All right, wonderful. That's the first step. Now, the trick or the key is just create any old path you want. You can use your pen tool. You can use the pencil tool. That's what I'm going to use here because I've got a graphics tablet. And, oh, by the way, double-click on the pencil tool, and we don't want accurate fidelity here. We want smoothness. We want the pencil tool to help us and give us a beautiful smooth letter. Hit OK. My name is Nathaniel, so I'm going to just do a big old N here. So I'm going to start. I'm going to go up, loop-de-loo, and voila, something like that. Not the greatest N in the world, but you know what? Who's who's worrying about that right now? Not me. Select this path and then hold down Shift and select this blended path thing down here. So you've got both objects selected. Go Object, Blend, Replace Spine. When we do that, you can see what we've got. We've got this crazy looking effect happening as you see. Now, there's a problem. It doesn't look as good as it could, and that's because Object, Blend, Blend Options, we have this set to Align to Path. If we set it back to Align to Page, turn on Preview, look at what we get. Is that not so cool? That is awesome. Hit OK, and you can see we get this really, really cool effect. So that's the basis of the effect. You can take this information, go out into the world, and do with it as you please. If you want to learn how to convert a typeface into something that works with this effect, hang around for a second, because that's exactly what we're going to do. I don't want to delete this because, hey, why would you want to delete it, right? Let's just hide that blend, and let's create a new circle down here, and we're going to give this that same bright blue gradient. We're going to set it to a gradient fill of -45. We're going to create another one of these kind of big blends. So go ahead, select both, Object, Blend, Make, and there we go. Looks cool. Let's go into Blend, Blend Options, and make sure we have it set to Align to Page, hit OK. And you can see it's really making our gradient all funky. And you probably aren't having this problem, but if you are, here's a quick way to fix it. We just need to go Object, Blend, Release. It's going to release the blend, and you can see that our gradients are being flipped, so they're actually 135 degrees. So select them both, and well, we should be able to select them both. There we go. And set them back to -45. Then go back, Object, Blend. We can go Blend Options right off the bat and just make sure that Align to Page is the option. Hit OK. And then go Object, Blend, Make. And you'll see, there we go. We have that, and Object, Blend, Blend Options. It is still Align to Page. Of course, that's important because as we saw with the text, if it's set Align to Path, you get it's a little bit of a different effect. It's not quite as cool. It's not quite as awesome. All right, so we've got this one blend here. Let's talk about how to create this effect using text. All right, grab the Type tool, and I'm going to type out the word hello. So capital H-E-L-L-O, and I'm going to grab my direct selection tool, hold down Shift, scale my text up. I need to make it much, much, much bigger here. So let's make it something like that. And then we need to find a font that works. So I'm going to scroll all the way up to the top here, and I've got this here, Black Sword. It's one that I used recently. It looks pretty good. It's nice and scripty. It's got some nice letters. I like it. I want to set the fill color to white, though, so I can really see what's going on. There we go. Hit OK. Cool. Really, really dig it. All right, first step, right-click on the text, choose Create Outlines. It converts your text from that text, that workable live text, to just a bunch of shapes. They're all grouped together, though. We need to ungroup them. Right-click, choose Ungroup. All right, now we have the O, we have the L, L, E, H. And now in order to do this, we're going to begin with the L's first because they're the most simple shapes. Then we'll do the E, and the H is probably the most difficult, so we'll do that one last. Check this out. What we're going to do, well, first and foremost, we're going to select all the letters, and we're going to flip fill and stroke. So we just want the strokes. We don't see anything but the stroke. All right, what we want to do here, we're going to zoom in on these L's, and I'm going to collapse like my character panel here. I don't really need that. Gradient panel, same deal. I don't need that right now. And we have all these compound paths. So we've got, one for the H. This is probably the H over here, the E, and then L, L, O. So let's shut off this O. Let's shut it off, I'm sorry. And then we'll shut off all of these as well. We're working with one L here. What I want to do, if I zoom way in, you can see here, and maybe I should change the color. Let me double click on this layer. Let's change the color of this layer to like green, something that'll really show up here. You can see that there's a little bit of path here between these two end anchor points. With my direct selection tool now, so I'm using the white arrow direct selection tool, I want to select that bit of path. I don't want to select either of those anchor points, just that bit of path, and hit delete. You can see it's going to knock out that length of path. Then what I'm going to do is come up here to the top of this letter, select the top section, and I'm going to delete that. So what we're left with is two paths that run adjacent, one to the other. Now what we want to do is create a blend between these two shapes. So check this out. Object blend, but we can't make the blend. Why? Well, because this is a compound path. So we need to go Object, Compound Path, Release. And now you can see the compound path has just been sort of demoted to two single paths. Between these single paths, we can create a blend. But the trick is, if we just go and say, look, make a blend, it's just going to make this a solid L with 1,000 lines of L in between it. We don't want that. We only want one little line. So we're going to go Blend, Blend Options, Specified Steps, and say just one single blend. So we're going to say object blend make, and you can see we have one line that runs through the middle of that letter L. Well, how do we get rid of the outside lines? Well, you can see we created this blend object over here in our layers panel. We're going to go object expand and choose to just expand the object, not the fill or the stroke, just the object. So I'm going to uncheck fill, uncheck stroke, hit OK. And now what I can do, it's a group, so we probably also want to ungroup it. The hotkey is Command Shift or Control Shift G. Look at that, 3 paths. So grab your black arrow tool now. Grab the 2 outside paths, shift click them, and just delete, get rid of them. Now you could zoom in, and I probably will here. Grab my direct selection tool, the letter A, select this anchor point here, and just adjust to make this nice and smooth. So when we apply our stroke to it, it's going to flow right through here easily and beautifully and just look amazing. All right, so I'm going to adjust this. I'm just going to adjust it the smallest little bit. All right, so it's still not quite perfect, but it's good enough. It's good enough to get by. So we have right here, if I turn on my other L, we have what would be the center spine, if you will, of that letter L. So now what I can do, I don't need to even do it for the next L. I can just select the L path that I just created, hold down Alt or Option, and drag this straight over and drop it in the middle of my other L, right? And then get rid of that. So I can get rid of this L as well. So we've created the center spines of both L's. Now we've got the H, the E, and the O left to go. Let's actually go and do the O first. Now the O is a little complex, so what I'm going to do with the O is straight up, I'm going to take the pen tool, and I am going to create a new path, and I'm just going to follow along the middle of the O, and here's how I'm going to do that. I'm going to go View and make sure Smart Guides is turned on. What that's going to allow me to do is click directly on an anchor point that's in the middle of this O. I'm not actually selecting the anchor point. I'm placing my new anchor point exactly on top of that, and then click and pull out a tangent handle like that. And then I'll drop the next point right down there. See how we're sort of manually creating that center spine of this letter O. All right, see that? Cool. Hold down my Alt or Option key, pull this tangent handle back a little bit. I'm going to loop right up here into there, and then I'm going to hold down Alt or Option and pull out a tangent handle, and then I'm going to line up with the anchor point at the very sort of northernmost tip of the O, and voila, hit Enter or Return. And I have that path. So I can take the compound path, which is the letter O, and I can just drag it to the garbage. So this is another way, if you don't have the patience to go through all of your letters and do the blend thing that I did there, you can just take the pen tool and you can trace over it. You can also scan in, like a marker or calligraphy sketch you have, and trace over with the pen tool. Just create one path down the middle of the pen tool. Create a path using the pen tool, down the middle of your letters. So this kind of gets long and tedious here, but I'll have a video guide down in the description of this video. If you do want to skip ahead at any point, absolutely feel free. But check this out. This is so cool. So now we're moving on to the letter E. I'm going to hide the letter H for a second. This is where things get really useful. Keep the compound path for a quick second. Check this out. We're going to grab the pen tool, and I'm going to, this is where it's imperative to have Smart Guides turned on here. With Smart Guides, I can create a simple line from anchor point to anchor point and just hit Enter or Return. We just created a line right across there. And same thing here. Anchor point to, well, just out kind of into the middle of nowhere, since there's no anchor point or line to line up with, right? Now what we can do is use our selection tool, just the black arrow, drag a selection over the letter E and both of those paths that we just created. And we can go Window, Pathfinder, there it is, and use this divide command right here in the bottom left corner, divide. And what that's going to do, now we see we've got this group here. We're going to go Object, Ungroup, and what we have is this shape and this shape. So we've got two separate shapes of the E. Now we also do have this kind of center shape that showed up. We're going to get rid of that in a second. In fact, that's right here in our layers panel. We can just drag that down to the garbage. We don't need that. And what I like to do for something like this is select like the inner part of the E. I still have my black arrow tool selected. It gets a little intricate here. Hang with me. Hold down the Shift key and just hit the right arrow key like once or twice. Let's just go twice. And now we'll do that same exact thing that we just did. These are not compound paths. They're just regular paths. See, path, path, no compound path. Don't worry. Grab the direct selection tool, and we're going to select that part of the E there. That's just, whoop, we don't want to select. We selected too much of it. Just that piece of path. Let me just zoom in here, make sure I'm selecting the right part of the path. Let's try this again. Let's grab just that part of the path, delete it. There we go, cool. I'm going to grab just that part of the path there, delete that. So we're going to end up creating two sets of lines here, but you'll see how this works in a second. Select that part of the path, delete, and then up here on the tip of the E, just get that little rounded part, boom. All right, great. So now that we've done that, we can select both of these lines. They're both just individual paths, and we can go Object, Blend, Make. It's going to have those same options where it just does one blend. Cool. We can go Object, Expand that blend, expand the object, not fill and stroke, just the object. Great. And then Command-Shift-G to ungroup it. We have our black arrow still, so we can select both of the outer lines and delete them now. Great. Now we're going to grab both of the other parts of the E, and we're going to go Object, Blend, Make, and we need to expand this. Expand, fill, stroke, okay. Object, ungroup. So tedious, so complex, but once you kind of understand it, you'll see how it goes. And remember, we nudged this out from the E, Shift and 2 taps of the right arrow, so Shift and 2 taps of the left arrow, and look at that, it goes back together perfectly. All we need to do is grab our direct selection tool, select both of those anchor points up there, and just go Object, Path, Join, and voila, we have one perfect path. Again, you can go in, and I probably will here with my direct selection tool, and just kind of make that little transition a little bit smoother, take some of the point out of it. All right, so we've got ELLO all in place here. Again, guys, time consuming. Hang with me here for a second. It's really cool when you understand how all this works. Remember, the L's were very simple. We just deleted the end caps, created the blend, boom, done. O was a little bit more complex, so we just traced it with the pen tool. E was even more complex because we had to break it into 2 shapes. Well, H is the most complex because we have this line that sort of crosses over. So here's how I like to do this. I like to do this sort of kind of manually, but also not. That sounds even more complicated. Let me just shut up and show you what I mean. All right, we have this shape H, and it's a compound path. So we're going to do what we did before. We're going to use the pen tool. We've got our smart guides turned on. We're going to create a line right there. We're going to create a line right here. We're going to create a line right here, and create a line right there. Great. So the whole point is when we divide these shapes, we're going to have, you can see, one big curving part of the H there and one part of the H here. It's going to be very easy to get the centers of those. And then for this little line across the H, I'll probably just use the pen tool to draw one straight line across the whole thing, or one, kind of curved line. So let's select our compound shape with those paths we just created. Use that little divide, right? Pathfinder's divide trick. And we have all of these shapes now in this group. Let's ungroup, Object, Ungroup, and we have our big shape up here and this shape right here, and then we have these shapes in the middle, 3 of them. I don't need any of these to be here, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to use my pen tool, and I'm going to start with this anchor point here. I'm going to click, pull out, and I'm going to pull to like right here maybe, something like that, and then I'll pull all the way over to the final anchor point right there, and then just hit Enter or Return to commit that path. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to select this path and delete it, select the piece in the middle and delete it, and select the little one on the end and delete it. So we kind of have the rough center spine of the cross that crosses the middle of the H. Now what we need to do is see how these come to points? These come to these really perfect points, so we don't really have a piece of the path that we can just delete without doing some serious damage. What do? Well, we use the scissors tool. The scissors tool here underneath the eraser tool, grab that and just click right on that anchor point. Boom, we divided the path. Let's go down here to the bottom part. Bam, we just divided the path. Great. Let's do the same thing over here for the other. Whoops, what did I do? Let me just undo that. I think I moved something. I started messing stuff up. Let's go ahead, and you can see when it says anchor point, see how it says anchor, right? That's our smart guide doing that for us. When you know you've targeted the anchor exactly, click with the scissor tool, and it's going to snip that anchor. And up here at the top, you can see here, now this is kind of tricky, right? So what you've got is, let me double click on this layer. Let's make this a little bit darker again. Let's go back to blue. What you have is a piece of path where we have an anchor point there and an anchor point there. There's no real true point. So what we'll do is we'll select that whole curved piece of the path and we'll delete that, right? Just like that. So we don't need to use the scissors up there on top. So we're going to just select these 2 pieces of the H, Object, Blend, Make. It's going to give us that center spine of our H. Object, Expand, and we're expanding the blend, because see, right now it's a blend. We want to expand the object. The blend, it's a blend object. We're expanding that edge out, or we're expanding that object, excuse me, out into 3 paths, and then we're taking the 2 outer paths. Well, we need to ungroup it. Object, Ungroup. And once we've ungrouped it, we can select the 2 outer paths and just delete them. And then we're left with the center spine of the H. We'll do the same thing here with these 2 paths. And we can see here in the Layers panel, it's still 1 layer, so I must not have snipped one of these anchor points. Oh, yep, down there at the bottom. I didn't quite snip that anchor point. Now we can see how it's 2 paths, so we can select both of those paths. See, we have 2 paths selected now. That's great, because that means we can blend them. Object, Blend, Make, and there we go. It made that blend. Object expand, of course, again, expand just the object, and object ungroup, voila. Get rid of the two outside edges, delete them, and I'm just going to come in over here. You can see how there's like this little wumpty bump. Grab the direct selection tool. Let's just try to clean that up a little bit, make it a little smoother so it kind of handles itself coming around the corner and doesn't look crazy when we apply our crazy stroke to it. All right, now we have all of our letters in place as kind of these spines. What we want to do, well, I'm going to save the document real quick. All right, we're back from the save. As I was saying, what we want to do is we need to create one of these blends for each line that needs to be stroked. So we have 1 line, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 lines that need to be stroked. So I'm going to select my blend here, hold down Alt or Option, and just pull down, holding down Alt or Option here the whole time. All right, we've got 5 of these blends. We need 7, 6, 7. Voila. And what I'll do is I'll select the first blend here, and you can see I'm just selecting this path, not an actual blend. That's an extra path that just ended up there. Let's delete that. Make sure we're selecting a blend. There we go. Selecting the blend, hold down Shift, select the first path. We'll go Object, Blend, and this Replace Spine option. There's the first part of the H. Great. Let's go to the second part of the H. Select the second blend, Object, Blend. You probably got the point at this point, right? And now we'll go to the next part of the H. Get that blend, Object, Blend, Replace Spine. And we've got a huge H. Now, just real quick side note. A couple of things we can do is this part of the H will probably look much better if it's behind maybe one part of the H, or maybe, hey, both parts of the H, right? Something like that. I don't know. You can play around with it and see what looks good. You can see what looks best, or if there's no part that looks that good, let's just probably throw it through like that. We'll do something kind of rough for now. But I actually don't know if I like that because I kind of want that part of the H to be in front. Let's throw it all the way behind. We'll kick it all the way to the back like that. One of the things you can do is you can select a blend and go Object, Blend, and choose like Reverse Spine, and it will give you a completely different look if you're not quite getting the shadowing and shading that you want. So we can go with like the one in the back there and go Blend, Reverse Spine. And you can also reverse it front to back, which if we go Blend, let's just choose to reverse it again. And then we can go with Blend, Reverse Front to Back. And you can see it just gives us a little bit of a different effect. I don't know that I really like it back there. I'm going to leave it as it was. All right, let's grab the letter E, hold down Shift, grab the next blend, go Object, Blend, replace the spine. You can see it's absolutely massive. These blends are probably a little bit too big for the paths that we're placing them on, but we're going to just kind of ride and die with it here. Object, Blend, replace the spine. Wonderful. We're going to go with the next one. Object, Blend, replace spine. And last but not least, that little O on the end. This is going to be quite bulbous text. Object, Blend, replace spine, and there we go. We have that O there on the end. So we have a very rough-looking hello, but one of the things you can do here as well is we can just space it out a little bit. So we can grab like E, 2 L's, and the O, and just nudge it to the side a little bit. We can grab the 2 L's and the O now and nudge them over a little bit if needed. I kind of like the 2 L's piled way up on top of each other. We can nudge the O over a little bit as well. So you kind of have this hello. This hello here could be a little bit more defined, but you know, it is what it is. We got what we got. You can always send whatever you want to the back or to the front. Like this letter O is it's a layer up on top. If we wanted it to be all the way in the back, we could make it all the way, you know, the letter all the way in the back. I don't really want that to be the case, though. I kind of like having it, you know, push forward toward me. I'm going to take this blend here, the cross here of the H, and I'm just going to nudge it over a little bit to kind of get it to fall behind the E a little bit more. So you can see, you can just have a lot of fun with it. You can go in, you can create pretty complex effects. You can convert an entire font to these, you know, center spine paths. That's how I create or convert lettering to these kind of center paths. If you think it's faster and easier for you to just take the pen tool and manually trace over it, hey, that can be super fast to go in and get it if you're a wizard with the pen tool as well. But I want to give you options here. And while it may take a little while, options are exactly what I'm giving. Now, one quick thing before we head out the door here, I want to show you, check this out. If we select all of these letters and we just group them up, Command or Control G, right? We got them right there, hello, in their own layer group. We can hit the little recolor artwork icon right there, recolor artwork. Remember, this is all comprised of a simple 2-color gradient at the end of the day. So we could say, hey, you know what, instead of aqua and blue, we want to go with like yellow, like bright, fiery, crazy yellow, and maybe just like a darker yellow or kind of an orangey something or other. Hit OK, and you can see, well, we probably want a little bit more contrast than that. So let's go with a little bit more of a darker orange. Hit OK, and you can see you can create and recolor the artwork so easily. You can come over here to the edit wheel. You can link these colors together, and you can just, you know, play around and see what you get. You can go with like a blue and a red. You can go with blues and purples and whatever, cyan and blue, or whatever colors are happening there. Green and blue and yellow and green, all kinds of really, really cool stuff. You can play around and very quickly, very easily recolor your artwork, hit OK, and now we've got an orange and yellow version of the word hello and not a blue version of the word hello. And obviously the sky's the limit. You can just go to town with this and do whatever you like. So if you've enjoyed this tutorial, make sure you leave or hit the little like button down there. Drop a comment below if you feel so inclined. Make sure you subscribe to the channel as well so you never miss another Illustrator tutorial in the future for creating this 3D text in Illustrator, just replacing the spine, that simple technique, but also taking an actual existing typeface and finding the centers of all the letters and making those paths. And hey, if you want to do it this way, or honestly, the way that I end up doing it a lot of times is just tracing with the pen tool, because it still is faster for me to do it that way. But this way is really kind of precise as well. It just tends to be a little time consuming, but it's a neat trick to know how to do for sure, for sure, for sure. For all of that and so much more, that's it. Get it, got it, good. Daniel Dodson, Typeface.com. I'll catch you in the next one.